Vince dodged Chad's bone spike kick and threw a jolt of electricity into his shoulder. Chad hardly reacted to the blast. Vince dodged the next swing and dove to the left. The lightning bolt to his chest only caused Chad to pause for a moment.
When did you become lightning-proof?
When one of our professors beat me with it.
Vince switched to absorbing. Blows smacked ineffectually against Vince's skin, adding to his already impressive kinetic stockpile, until he saw an opening. Vince shuffled a few feet away from Chad.
I wasn't actually expecting an answer.
I know, but fighting you is wasting precious time, so I hope that if you see how pointless it is, you might give up. Silly to think that you could be convinced to stand down.
As Chad charged toward him, Vince summoned the last of Thomas's energy. A giant orange hand grabbed Chad and hurled him into the sky. Intramurals had proven that Chad was only vulnerable when he was airborne. Vince hoped his flaming attack could be enough to slow Chad down. He held the shot for as long as he dared before finally letting the flames die away. When Chad landed, his arms were in front of his face. The minor burns on his skin were already healing. Vince expected another attack, but when Chad lowered his arms, his eyes were wide with panic.
Throw me again!
What?
Throw me again! Jump up with me and punch me to the northwest!
Vince opened his mouth to ask more questions, but Chad grabbed him by the collar.
If you have ever trusted me, if there was ever any real friendship between us, then do this right now.
Okay. I'm out of the orange stuff, so I'll carry you up and punch you from there. Northwest?
Northwest.
Vince grabbed Chad under the arms. They left the battle far below, and when they reached the apex of the leap, Vince pressed a fist into Chad's fortified back. Chad rocketed into the distance like a spiny bullet. Their tandem fight had attracted attention from the armed guards. He landed cleanly, taking in the force of the impact. And he found that he'd managed to move 5 feet closer to Globe than he'd been before Chad intercepted him.
Whatever he's doing, I wish him luck.
Vince began running once more, firing off a round of lightning at the nearest group of guards. With Chad out of the way, crossing the rest of the battlefield didn't seem nearly so daunting. The hero in the black costume left a path of destruction in his wake. Every guard in his way was dropped as he raced after the fleeing form of the amplifier. Supers that should have been able to put up a real fight were easily knocked aside. Anyone with a little sense could put it together. The guy was a neutralizer. While the armor he was wearing was clearly new and cutting edge, a high-caliber bullet from a powerful gun could get through, and the guard on his trail carried such an item. He stayed on the hero's trail, waiting for an opportunity to take him out. As the black armored figure came upon a larger cluster of enemies, the guard knew this was his chance. Dropping to a knee, he lifted the rifle and looked into the scope. All of the guard's focus went into his aim, which proved to be his undoing. He didn't even have time to turn around. Being decapitated threw off his aim, and the bullet hit another guard as the gunman's head landed in his lap. Zero whipped his head around at the sound of the gunshot to see Chad next to a headless guard holding a giant gun. Knocking out the last guard in his path, Zero turned and sprinted back to Chad.
Are you okay?
I'm fine, but you need to do a better job of watching your six. If I hadn't seen him shadowing you when Vince threw me up in the air...
Chad's eyes darted to the man he'd just killed.
Sorry. My emotions are a little unbound at the moment.
Vince threw you?
Zero looked around once more. The boy was on a direct path for Globe, clobbering anything that got in his way.
I think I see now. You two had a fight. He got you into the air for an attack, and you noticed this guard sneaking up on me. Huh, I'm impressed, Chad. You could have kept going after Globe and assumed I could handle this.
The sniff gave away just how hard the day was hitting Chad as he tried to wipe the blood from his arm blade onto his uniform.
I have spent my life wishing I could get revenge for my father's murder and trying to live up to his image. Thought it was the thing I cared the most about in the world, especially once Globe reappeared. But revenge isn't worth burying someone else I love, someone who has always been there for me, and my mother, from the very beginning. So please, Blaine, be more careful. Even if you're just my godfather, you've been the only flesh and blood dad I've had.
Blaine pulled Chad in and hugged him, the spiky bones pressing against his armor.
I'm sorry. I let anger cloud my judgment and put myself at risk. It It's a bad habit I've had ever since back in my hero days.